So, important levels for the Bitcoin dominance chart: Bitcoin, Reef and Vechain. So hi everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are new, make sure you have subscribed and hit that bell button so you don't miss anything. Also leave a like and a comment, which is always good. Let's talk quickly about the dominance chart first. I've got something on my hat. Now I'm gone. Anyways, we've been in this sideways motion for a while. Very, very important. We're going to explain a few things. Most people, if you are new to the channel, if you've never really seen any of my work before, I predominantly do it in Bitcoin, and I use this as my entry and exit kind of levels, essentially, for buying into Bitcoin or buying into altcoins, whatever, right? This is really good for the market in terms of this going sideways. It's gradually just grinding down. And I think there's a play in Bitcoin that's going to allow alt season to kind of flurry a little bit, and I'm going to explain why in this video, so make sure you stick around. And by the way, I've removed the timestamps because since I did my timestamps 3 videos ago, my channel just went so make sure you watch the entire video. It does help. You're going to get a lot of value, trust me. So dominance chart, personally I believe we're going to come back down very, very soon on this. This goes down, altcoins go up, and I'm going to explain why, especially with the setups that I've got in this video here. I think we're getting ready for a March alt season, in my opinion, not financial advice, of course. So we're looking at that. It's looking pretty good. If you look at the higher time frames as well, 2-day chart, monster drop, formed a new low path on this level here, essentially. So we're still continuing. We need to form a low on here, though. This is the one. So we need to break this and then break that. If we go lower than that, it could be very, very interesting, especially when you think about what's coming out in the market, essentially, with a lot of the new coin releases, a lot of like speculation about Ethereum 2.0, obviously Polkadot parachains, all kinds of good stuff happening with Grayscale as well. Somewhat interesting to see how this market is developing. But let's talk about Bitcoin. Overall, this is my thoughts, right? Don't hurt me. But we need a few things to happen. So I personally believe we're in an ABC correctional pattern, and I think with impulse down, we've pulled back up to the 618, and we're on our, I think we're gonna go back down again, essentially. But the caveat of this is simple. Nice, slow, boring Bitcoin is good. We don't want volatility. We don't want it to go nuts. We want it to just chill on its head and just go, relax time. Because I think it's due. I think that sideways consolidation band and that slow, sluggish grind down to a certain level is coming. And it's got to come, because when we zoom out on this chart, it hasn't really had one since, well, July. So it's been flat out. It feels like me right now, flat out, doing videos every day, not being able to go on the sun or go out and do whatever I want to do because of obviously restrictions in life. But ultimately, I feel Bitcoin has to go sideways and slowly dribble down, essentially, in my opinion. It's critical, absolutely critical for one thing only. Altcoins could breathe hard. Now, we're talking about Bitcoin at 50k here, and the dominance chart is still slowly dropping. That's very, very good. If we go back 12 months, that would never have been the case. Altcoins are still growing. The total 2 chart is still growing. We're still in a monster bull market, essentially. And I don't think the parabolic pandemonium mania nutcase, people throwing things at things all the time, hasn't happened yet, in my personal opinion. I don't think that mentalness has been here. It's like, oh my God, it hasn't happened, I don't think. But let's talk about Reef, because I think, obviously people know that I like this, but I think this is, like, as much as it's been flooded and stuff, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty strong. Good partnerships. And we're talking about critical levels here. Let's go to Bitcoin. The BTC chart of Reef has been consolidating, and it looks pretty neat and tidy. When you look at this as analysis, that is pretty neat. It's showing levels of support levels. I believe it's accumulating wealth, and I think this is an important level. And you know, if you're thinking I've missed the boat, this has been one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best releases of a coin, because it hasn't gone berserk. Whereas some coins tend to go absolutely berserk. They have a massive, massive sell-off. They wreck people and then they go off again. Look at Graph, for example. Graph is a great example of this. Blew off, pulled back down, did a 70% retracement, then blew off even higher and absolutely took people's money, essentially, just stole it. Whereas Reef hasn't done that. It's been quite slow and progressive, and they are looking to do a lot of parachain work, essentially get that bonding period sorted, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that is enabled. But critical levels, 83 Satoshis for Reef, and essentially obviously the low end of this is obviously roughly around 58. So it's in a nice consolidation channel, but it's critical that it stays within this or it blasts through it essentially. I think how the market is going with, you know, the confluence of the BTC chart, with the dominance going down, with the hype in altcoins, the ecosystem of Polkadot getting bigger and bigger in terms of hype as well, possibly going to go up more than down essentially because it is relatively low. Looking at the USD pair, again, we've not got much data to go on here, I do apologize, but this will obviously govern with the BTC pair, right? Obviously with Bitcoin going up, this is obviously how it is, but this is just consolidating essentially. Look at it, like even if you zoom in on that, and if you zoom out a bit, you can see some sort of detail, but that is essentially what we've got. Not really much to go on essentially at all, but it's important to look. So if we start zooming in and looking at this now, it's been okay. It's been absolutely fine. Yes, it's pulled back a little bit, but obviously Bitcoin's pulled back. So you've got to think that would be in the confluence of that level. But when we start thinking overall and looking at like the 2-day chart, for example, just to give you an absolute pointer, absolute critical levels in my opinion are coming. And I think it's going to get very, very interesting very, very soon with Reef. When you start looking at the fact of where this level has kind of gone, essentially from this rise to the pullback, it's on its way up, I think anyways. And I also believe that with the BTC chart looking pretty good for a potential breakout from the consolidation zone, we may be looking at 7 to 8 cents essentially pretty quickly if BTC behaves itself, but also that level of, you know, BTC pair on Reef actually does its magic and actually goes and, you know, breaks up to the upside and continues going up when we start thinking about it. So that is Reef essentially. It's looking pretty good. There's not much data on here, but it is consolidating. It is looking quite good. A lot of people asking about price updates on that, but absolutely fine. Just accumulation of wealth by looks of things. But we will come back to that in the next few months essentially to see what data we've got in the overall future. But let's talk about Vechain. Personal opinion on Vechain, I think this is undervalued massively. Don't hold it anymore. Used to hold it, but the fundamentals are pretty clear in Vechain. Very, very strong, very, very good asset. And this is a critical level. This level here is absolutely monumentally critical here. So if we're looking at this on the 2-day chart in terms of BTC, it's looking pretty good for a potential breakout in my opinion. And I think we're going to go up to this range here, this 166 Satoshi range, from this low essentially up to this point, which in my opinion would still make it undervalued overall when you think about it. So when I zoom out of this and we look at the previous alt season where it's been all the way up there. It's been up like, you know, 238 Satoshi. That was the last proper big alt season cycle. Still undervalued, absolutely critical that it breaks above, but we're looking at all these levels here. It's broken out of this region here, so it's critical that on the 3-day and the weekly and stuff like that, it holds above 97 Satoshis. That is the key monumental level here that we need to talk about. So that is obviously going to be pretty important to break up. Forming a trend, it's looking pretty good, looking pretty neat and tidy on the 3-day chart. Obviously, if you look at the weekly as well, we're in a bit of a downtrend essentially, but it's starting to reversal signs are all here. So Vechain, it likes to run, we know it does, and that's always good. Again, looking at the USD pair, looking at monster trend, still in a bull trend, looking really good. Even if we're going to go from this low to this top here, 6 or 8 levels found, and I believe we're going to go much higher. If that BTC pair cracks on and we're going to see at least 7 to 8 cents essentially on Vechain, I think, and I think that'd be a great little option for people looking to grow wealth. But we've got to talk overall about the fundamentals of any project. Research is obviously key, but the fundamental line is don't just chart your analysis in USD, because you are literally charting against the trend if Bitcoin is going down. Ultimately, you got to remember the BTC pairs are the most important things. If people know my work, you'll know that anyways. But when we talk about obviously the likes of Reef as a new option, yes, hype with Polkadot. But when you look at the likes of the existing with Vechain, I think this has got a lot of minerals to kind of give back to the market. It's not retraced enough yet. It's starting to gradually trickle up, and the supply chain levels in the world essentially will be of interest in the future for blockchain. But overall, when you connect the dots and you look at all the altcoins, I've been talking about lots of altcoins on my Twitter recently, the likes of Chainlink, likes of Zilliqa, even RSR. I still believe they are majorly undervalued at the minute. When you look at where this dominance chart is, this is a massive clump, absolute cluster of like indecision. What is going to break next? And when you look at the likes of the Ethereum chart and Polkadot and obviously even Cardano, and they do a nice leg up to the upside, well, this is just going to melt. It's going to create a lot of wave of interest. News articles will be published. People like me will be talking about it, going, yeah, look at this, boom, off we go, my friend. So yeah, critical levels. Vechain has some to hold. Reef has some to break. And Bitcoin has to chill out. If Bitcoin is slow, boring, steady, altcoins are going to thrive, and those altcoin Satoshi levels are going to increase in your portfolio very, very quickly. And yeah, you'll make some free Bitcoin for just holding altcoin. It's going to be great fun.